Okay. Hi, everybody. My name's Danette. I am the managing editor of Bizcommunity, and it's my pleasure today to moderate a panel of the grand jury insights of the Gerety Awards. So, welcome to three lovely ladies from across the continent, which is so exciting. West Africa, East Africa, Southern Africa. So, I'm going to ask you all to introduce yourselves and then we'll kick off. As you all know, the results have been announced yesterday. We'll be discussing some of the campaigns and insights from these awards. So, if I can ask Ego to kick off, to just briefly tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll move to East Africa.
Oh, hello, everyone. My name is Ego Boyo. I am an actor, a filmmaker. I'm based in Lagos, Nigeria. I'm also an advocate for women and girls, for education, health, and financial empowerment. I make films, so I'm committed to making films that and using media to educate, empower, and for advocacy.
That's amazing. We'll get back to that when we start with the questions. Let's
Yeah.
move to East Africa, to Kenya. And Waitera, perhaps you can tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Waithera. I'm a marketer. I work for Diageo Africa. I'm not just a marketer, I'm a marketer who's really keen about responsible marketing and progressive marketing. And those are some of the initiatives that I lead at Diageo Africa. I am a specialist in digital and media. I'm based in Nairobi, Kenya, and have had the privilege of working across multiple markets across Africa. Happy to be here.
Lovely to have you. And then last but not least, down in Southern Africa, South Africa specifically, we've got Vio, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Danette. My name is Vuyo Enda, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of the Spur Corporation. It's a restaurant business, and we have events across the continent. I am a passionate marketer who's really emboldened and excited to build brands that have an impact and that stand the test of time. I also believe that women have an important role to play in shaping society for the better and for making sure that we drive responsible communication in our specific sector and industry.
So, Vio, I'm going to stay with you to kick off with the first question because you told me that you really loved the final copy from L'Oreal, which was a Grand Prix winner. It's a beautiful story. So tell us why it's an important story, why you liked it so much. What were the highlights for you of this campaign?
So we were judging over August, which is Women's Month in South Africa, and it was a very timely piece of work to see. I remember watching the short clip that they attached to the entry, and just seeing Elon Specht look into the camera with a defiance that really moved me. It's a remarkable story of the women behind words that have shaped generations of women and continue to give women a platform of power and strength in how they show up in the world. And I couldn't believe that I hadn't heard about this woman before. And I found that the story was beautifully told through the relationship that she had with her stepdaughter, who was looking after her at the end of her life. And I really found the story moving because we're in a time when we are flooded with large language models and copy that's assisted with AI across all our feeds. But the words that Elon penned in 1973 have stood the test of time and have revolutionized not only advertising, but beauty. And I just felt like in the era we're living in at this point in time, it was just so refreshing to see creativity and the power of words written from the heart, centering women and how that has reverberated through time. So I was delighted that it got a Grand Prix. because it's a testimony of the power of words and the power of simple creativity.
It definitely shows the longevity of great creativity.
Oh, yes.
And it's also translated over the different eras in our lives as women have changed. Let me go to Ego. You're a great advocate for women's rights. What was there any of the Grand Prix that stood out for you? Do you want to comment perhaps also on the final copy? You're welcome. We're dying to hear your insights.
Yes, if just before we started, we had a little chit chat and we were talking about the final copy. So I'm going to go back to the final copy. That for me, as Vuyo said, was a powerful film. It was simple in terms of the filmmaking, but it was really compelling, very emotional. It was wonderful, and I agree completely with you, Vuyo. The idea that I had not heard of this woman in all the years that I've known that slogan, that I've heard those words said multiple times on different media, and I just didn't know the story behind it. And it was so important to see the context of, the generation she came from, where advertising was and where she was in the world, and to see that even today, how many years later, is it almost 50 something years later, that tagline is still relevant, it still resonates, especially for women. As you mentioned, advocacy, it's something that we have to continue to reinforce. We have to continue to define our space in the world. Sadly, we haven't moved past, we haven't moved as forward as we would like. So slogans like this and the context behind it, the story behind it, and this powerfully feisty woman who stood up and just has empowered. It's a manifesto for women. It has empowered generations and it continues to. It's so important to have the story behind it, but also to remind women of just how far we've come and how much further we have to go, you know. So for me, in terms of advocacy, it's a powerful tagline. It's a powerful slogan to always share with other women, because you're worth it, because you're worth it. It's not just in beauty, it's in everything, in the journey, whatever trajectory your life has taken, whatever journey you have embraced in your career, in your personal choices. Make those choices for yourself. Be intentional for yourself because you are worth it. So it's powerful. I loved the film. I loved everything about it. And yeah, that is the one that stood out for me. Yeah.
I think it's also powerful because it doesn't deny us as women.
Yes.
We don't have to pretend to be men. And
Yes.
that's what makes it so powerful because we
Yes.
are embracing our womanhood, who we are.
Yes.
Let's
It
move to
centers
Kenya.
us. Yes.
Wetera, any comment on that?
Not additional comment. I also was surprised that we didn't know this story, and I'm happy it's come to light. And it is our hope that through such forums, more of these stories will come to light. Yeah.
Can I ask you, you come from a digital background. Was there work that was digital that you thought stood out? What is the standard of sort of digital work if on the continent in particular?
Good question. If I think about digital craft is about the artistry around using technology. If we look at the other Grand Prix, which was Senna's Cut was basically a really, really good example of craft in editing. It really did underscore how editing isn't just functional, but you can get it to be story, it's you can get it to be storytelling. How they were able to use technology to synchronize the visuals and the sound in that specific timing in regards to Senna's Cut. I think that was just brilliant. It was just a reminder that even as we have all this technology coming in from AI and every other technology that we're facing as creatives, storytelling is still the heart of how you resonate with audiences. Yeah.
So I think both of those Grand Prix winners are examples of great storytelling in their own ways. Something I found really hard hitting was the never just a period. Um, and there were lots about that really kind of stood out for me. And I'm going to throw this out to whoever wants to start. any thoughts on this, I thought, really powerful piece? Um, shall
That
I
was
just,
actually my favorite
oh,
for,
really?
of the
Okay, lovely. Tell
Granby.
us why.
I loved it. Also because it reminded me of a similar campaign that was done in Kenya called Stay Not Shame. Shame Not Stain, sorry. And again, it goes back to my thoughts around progressive marketing. How bold are we in actually telling these real stories from real women? But at the same time, with never just a period, again, great craft around it, but it really puts the person at the heart of the story. And I think it's really important because I don't think we could have seen a campaign like this even 20 years ago, or 15 years ago,
Mm,
which shows that there is progress in the way we tell stories about things that truly affect women. But at the same time, there's still a lot more to be done in terms of um, portrayal of women or portrayal of genders in advertising, in what we do. I think this was such a bold campaign to break taboos. A lot of these we see in Africa, that there's
yeah.
still strong taboos around menstruation. And as we can see also, there's still sorry, man, I just went out. There's still issue. There's still it was power saving. Um, Even when we start talking about perimenopause and menopause, we're starting to see campaigns coming out around that. Again, we still need more stories to highlight the women or the people are behind that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely, we're seeing the rise of women's health stories, of all ages, which is really amazing, whether it's women's fitness, perimenopause, menstruation. It really is, the stories are coming out. We are not afraid to talk about this, no taboos anymore. Avoya, I see you kind of agreeing. Have you got a thought there you want to share with us?
Yeah, I found it very exciting to see with traditionally stigmatized topics being used to propel creativity and then combining that with exceptional craft. I think the Libresse example, the art direction is just
Mhm.
so just a feast
Mm,
for the eyes, really. So
Yes.
think of something that is a stigmatized topic, especially in some societies like menstruation, but then you couple it with these beautiful, vibrant images to really denote the life that that cycle really represents.
mm,
I thought was just
Mm.
brilliant, and just how tastefully and artfully handled these, darker or more stigma-driven
mm.
subjects can be. It was just awesome to see that. So I loved that piece as well, and thought it was very, very inspirational for people who want to tackle difficult subjects but
Yeah.
use their creativity to make them more mainstream.
Yeah.
Um, Ego, can you comment on that as a filmmaker? Because it's a great film and the music was really powerful in it. It really kind of, it went fast and slow and it really like
Yes.
kind of, you really felt the emotion.
Yes. Yeah, I thought it was really well done, very bold. The visuals, really stunning visuals, and the textures that were used, the metaphors that were used for, they did it in such a tasteful way so that I love the fact that they used
Love the fact that
jello,
they used.
jello for some of the scenes, and there was a bit of humor there. And of course, the music was fantastic because it just sort of conveyed the dips, the highs and the lows, what a woman experiences. It was just every single aspect, every single part of the art direction was just geared towards making this not only a vi boldly visual film, but also very persuasive. It's something you can watch without feeling, it wasn't preachy. Do you understand? It was just very textual, very real. It was telling this story, and it was a story that you could put your daughter, your son in front of the television to watch it, and they would sort of get it. And for, maybe younger audiences, it is especially those textures that would be more appealing. Oh, look, yuck, Jello, and all of
Mm.
those things. But it captures a whole wide audience. And I love that they were very bold with their filmmaking. It's the way to go, especially around women's health. As you mentioned, it's been a topic that hasn't really had enough discussion around it. Taboo subjects always. We're still talking about. We have the month. We're going to be celebrating the month of the girl child here very soon, and these are some of the subjects around periods, around period. Not only because a lot of children, a lot of girls are not able to go to school because of their periods, because there isn't water in some of the schools and all of that. So I just thought this would be something to sort of galvanize the conversation around it if we could show it to, potential sponsors and partners. This is what women experience. You all have daughters, mothers, sisters. There's no shying away from the subject. It's such a huge part of our lives. Look at it, embrace it, understand it, and just let's move this conversation past why we're still talking about periods and rolling our eyes and all of that. It's a real part of life. And let's just do something about it. So I think every single aspect of that film just communicated that so perfectly. And again, I also love the fact that we are, making these sort of bold films around women's health, and these sorts of issues.
Yeah. And I think I would love to, you know, I'd love to see more brands move into this space and be
Yes.
brave because,
Mhm.
these ads with about period pads or tampons that are fluffy and little fluffy dogs and that, let's actually give us a real ad. It's a bit like
Yeah.
washing powder ads. I mean, come on, not everyone's dying to do the washing up, whatever. But
And guess what? It did pay off, didn't it? Because for the
Mm,
brand, they did see it was a very effective
Yes,
campaign.
there's a
They did
bump.
oh,
see a
yes.
huge brand lift
Yeah, yeah.
for the brand as well. So it does
Mhm.
pay off.
Yeah,
Yeah,
being real.
definitely.
Yes, yeah, yeah,
So I think that one of the themes that I'm seeing come out of this is this, well, a few themes. One is storytelling, and the other one is women's actually addressing women's issues.
yeah.
What other themes did you find, and what was some of the highlights of being on the grand jury? Maybe we can start with Ego, and we'll work around my screen in that order.
I think for me, one of the things that I really enjoyed was just being able to see the breadth of the work from different parts of the world and just how, again, how some brands are being very bold and forward thinking in their advertising. And I really like that. I think, as you said, there's been a lot of fluff, and we've been presented with this idealized picture of certain things in the world. And it's good to see some real. I'm not saying make it gritty and, dangerous all through, but sometimes there are things that you shouldn't, make pretty. They have to be real. And I liked that that was being embraced in some senses. And I think another thing that was clear was that a lot of brands are looking to a bit more simple truths. They're looking for, telling their story or communicating the message through simple means, but also truth, being very truthful in terms of the subject that they're dealing with. One of the ones what I'm trying to communicate is instead of it being this very convoluted idea around a specific brand or a specific product, you are presenting it in a way that just immediately resonates with an audience or a client watching it. It can be something that is impactful as well, something that impacts lives. There was one that we watched. It was one of the ones I had seen previously in another, I think it was in Hot Water. It's about global warming and all of that. So there are issues that are impacting us now. We've talked about the periods, stories around women's health. That was another one. And then for me, truth again was in the story about Elon. Just realness, real truths. And I think when audiences see ads that are true, that are not too stylized, we love AI, we love tech, but sometimes there's just something about the realness of an ad that just sort of jumps out and just hits you in the gut. It's telling a story, sometimes simply, sometimes that's what you want. A bit of humor, a bit of realness. And I saw that in some of the ads, and that was what resonated for me. as, say, not just as a jury member, but as a consumer watching these. And I think that those are trends that I'd seen. I'd seen it in another festival, just the realness of it. I think that when there's that sort of truth in the work that you do, when that emerges, then it resonates a bit more with the audience. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Yeah.
I agree with you. And I
Yeah.
think it comes down to the insight.
Yeah.
And, starting with a really powerful insight,
Insights.
because if that drives the work and the creativity, I don't think you can go wrong.
Wrong.
Yeah. Waitera, what was your favorite part of being on the grand jury and the work?
First, it was really good to see how campaigns from all the diverse categories, from communication to craft entertainment, really came out to show real societal resonance. And I love judging Gerety because you get to see the spread of across the different categories. One of the things that stayed strongly with me is the campaigns that were truly, the award-winning campaigns were truly provocative, and not provocative for the sake of being provocative. They're provocative in a purposeful way. The brands use their voice or their tones to intentionally really challenge something that's wrong in the society, or a societal norm, or a taboo, or a stigma, like we've seen with Never Just a Period. And really, it's the start to spark a debate for change. Even the one around price packs by Penny, which I feel, there's an element of economic empowerment, but there's also an element of really purposeful provocation. Again, the campaign was not just focusing on, the financially supporting communities who are struggling with everything that's going on in our macro environment, but they actually pushed through a really, had you question, had you spark a debate, how really should, what is true economic empowerment when you look at the retail space? So my takeaway from it is there's a lot of work that was really provoking, and it was provoking with purpose, and that was just brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's great insights. Avoya, you want to say something?
I have
You add to the
I
conversation,
have
please.
to chime in on that one. I enjoyed Penny's price pack submission. I thought it was brilliant because they really showed through just changing their packaging in that way that they were really committed to their customers. So much so that they were willing to set aside the norm and their branding and really focus on showing the stability and their commitment to keeping the price consistent for their customer on their product lines. Brilliant, brilliant, refreshing. They took the rule book and they threw it out the window, but they kept a distinctive brand asset, and all the things that marketers treat as sacred, they kept the one thing that was really powerful, but in discarding the rest, they were able to reinforce their promise in ways that I think were completely unexpected, and a great lesson for us, in Africa as we look to dealing with some of the socioeconomic challenges that some of our markets face. I thought that was brilliant. And overall, just seeing the simplicity, I think Ego mentioned that. I get back to that. Some of the most compelling ideas are the most simplest, but then the craft is where they really start to distinguish themselves, and the attention to detail and the care. The Art of Stains was great as well from Omo, the 100th edition. Again, a very simple imagery, but you have to look again. You have to think a little bit to really receive what the message that's coming from the creators there. And I think also commenting on, it's almost like the work was reflecting a lot of what we're grappling with as humans. And silence the violence, particularly as well, just thinking about these statues and how they touched in inappropriate ways as a little bit of a comment on our frame of mind and how we view bodies and consent. And also just thinking about threads. There was a beautiful animation, and it's about this character, but it's in wool, in the workplace, and as they go through their day, they're slowly unraveling. And I thought it was such a powerful piece on mental health. These are real conversations we're having in our relationships, in our teams, in our homes. And the work was, amplifying these things, but using creativity to land some points for us to reflect as human beings as well.
So that said, what lessons are there that you can take from being on a grand jury like this into the African continent? Because, we're different, we're special, because we're fabulous. But how do we, learn from others and perhaps bring that in?
Yeah.
I'll offer a point of view. I think for me, it's about us being bolder and braver. I think one of the biggest lessons sitting in the jury was realizing that our voices are needed, and it's really upon us to back ourselves and to really go into our own stories and harvesting the goodness from those stories to share with the rest of the world. I think we have so much to offer, and I think sometimes we censor ourselves a bit. And I think the invitation is there for us to really chime in and shape some of these conversations in ways that are reflective of our experience on this continent. So I think we need to step up to the podium more and not hold ourselves back. I think that was something I felt quite strongly about, having been part of this process, but also exposing ourselves to women who are coming from different walks of life is also enriching, because there were points where I was like, oh, I didn't think of it like that. I didn't view it like that. And I think that is really the point of having participation, because women in leadership tiers in the creative industry are sometimes underrepresented. And then I think to myself, what a tragedy it is to not have these insights, this thoughtfulness come through in the industry that I'm experiencing at a jury level. Yeah.
Yeah, it's lovely. Igo, you look ready to add to that.
Yes, I think yes, definitely being on the jury and being exposed to women and their views and, from all over the world, what I would bring back is just be less afraid to tell very difficult stories, because there are just so many ways that you can tell a story, a campaign, by just having your voice heard. And a lot of time, especially on the continent, we sort of shy away from a lot of these tough subjects. You try and make it palatable for an audience, because that is how we've been told that it should be, that message should be conveyed. But with what I have seen, it's given me a bit of you know, I feel a bit bolder in terms of how I would tell my stories, how I would try and convey this message across. I feel that we are ready. We've seen a lot of different, slight changes in our industries on the continent, and there's that boldness emerging, the willingness to tell certain stories, tackle certain subjects that were a bit difficult. So I think what it has done for me is make me feel bolder. I've heard and seen from so many different women. I've seen what is happening around the world, and I've seen how they've been received positively. Sometimes you feel as if it's best to not tell these stories because they won't. But when you do tell these stories, when you make that bold move, then people are almost, they've been waiting, like, what have you been waiting for? So it has, yes, I feel emboldened by, my participation and meeting all these wonderful women and just focusing. And of course, the female gaze, the female viewpoint has always been something that is missing and must be a part of every aspect of our lives. I was reading something the other day, and this woman said, we are half of this world, and yet we are not represented in so many spaces. So it is important that we as women continue to make sure that our voices are heard, that there's representation, and that the stories that we want to tell from our point of view, we are bold enough to tell them.
It's lovely, and I totally agree. We'll end with Waitera, your final thoughts and how you experience the jury and the work, and what you will bring back to the continent.
I'll go back to my word, I'm provoked. I'm truly provoked in making sure that, number one, we just need representation in the industry. So how do we make sure we're putting women in situations where they can not just give their input, but drive leadership? So not starting too high. If you even think about our creative partners who we work with, we've seen on the continent, you tend to see a lot of males in senior creative roles, ECDs, etc. And that's fine, and we're working to change that. But in the meantime, if you're working on a campaign, I was just thinking, how do I bring my more junior creatives or junior marketers into the room to get their perspective and their point of view? So we really have a diverse set of voices. So we're seeing things from another perspective, not just the one that we've been used to. And then my second thing, still around provoke, is how do we also provoke our creative partners, so me sitting on the client side, to make sure that also our work drives marketing effectiveness, because that is what is truly going to be sustainable. Like I gave the example for sorry, I'm losing the name of it. The period campaign. If it was not effective from a marketing point of view, how sustainable would it have been? Let's do it. We've done it once. We're not doing it again. So again, let's challenge marketers. How do we make sure we're tying the business outcomes to the insights and the creative ideas that we're doing? So that's my word, provoke. I am provoked.
That's great. Thank you so much, ladies. So yeah, I think we've had a wonderful discussion. Insights, simple ideas, strong craft, execution, purpose, and provoked, embodied. It's wonderful. Thank you so much for spending time with us today and sharing your insights. It's been fantastic.
Thank you, Danette.